Bros podcast, the only podcast that's perfectly balanced as all things should be. I'm your host, Max Moser, here today to talk about episode 5, The Harvest from Secret Invasion. I am not alone. I am joined by another member of the 6 Infinity Bro rotating cast. It is Mark Jones. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful. We are recording on my beautiful wife Kelly's birthday. We both work today. We're both enjoying doing stuff that we like doing, podcasting, and I believe she's watching Netflix. But big shout out to her. She's wonderful. She's great. She's fantastic. Love my life. And she's I got her Macklemore tickets.
Oh.
So in October, he's coming to the Armory in Minneapolis. So
I didn't know she was such a Macklemore guy.
Right?
I never knew.
Like, she nonchalantly, I think, brought it up, like, in our first year of relationship. I'm like, you just don't, like, you're, like, she's, like, a kind of, like, a soft country fan to, like, Fleetwood Mac, like, that type of music. Like,
Fleetwood Mac is great, yeah.
It's, like, and then you tell me Macklemore and Eminem are, like, also your favorite, like, artists, and I was just like, all right. So then I've been, like, on the prowl, because she's, like, never been to a Macklemore concert, and I'm like, oh, gotta get tickets, so...
I 6 out of 6, Kelly Jones. Great people. We like her a lot. We're thankful for her as well. Happy birthday to Kelly. I won't ask her age because we're at the point, and I feel like with my wife, I don't ask the age anymore. I don't even ask that question.
Do you know your wife's age?
I do know it, but Actually it was 2 weeks ago. I just wouldn't ask in public. I think she's at the age. She's at the point where she's not celebrating that anymore.
She's 29 forever now.
Sure. Yeah. Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast. As I said at the top of the show, we're grateful you're here, wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thanks for making us part of your podcast experience. We're excited to talk about Secret Invasion episode 5. It's been a journey that Mark and I have been on, and we have been with you every week. And if you are just checking us out for the first time, we'd love for you to consider checking out previous episodes of ours. Or if you're a Magic the Gathering player, check out our monthly episode of Magic Monthly. We're going to talk about episode 5, as we talked about the show starring Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, Colby Smulders, Olivia Colman, Amelia Clark, Don Cheadle, Kingsley Ben Adir, Killian Scott, and Charlene Woodard. We're going to be spoiling everything about episodes 1 through 5, specifically episode 5. So we want you to know that from this point on, this is going to be your spoiler warning.
This is...
Prepare yourself.
An Infinity Bros.
Prepare yourself.
Spoiler warning.
And we're going to rate things on this show. We have a specific rating system that we use to describe everything on this show, so we want to make sure you're familiar with that.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an infinity step.
The Harvest. The synopsis reads, Fury gathers his allies. Gravik deals with unrest. It is once again directed by Ali Salim, written by Kyle Bradstreet, Michael Bim, Brian Tucker, and I talked about the starring cast on the front end for this. Mark, we both have sat in the 5 to 5.5 range on the previous 4 episodes. I haven't added them and averaged them, but my assumption would be I think it's safe to say you and I have sat on the season at about a 5.2, 5.3.
Yeah, we've been. I feel like we're always either like a quarter or half percentage point from each other. So
yeah, we've actually, this is in my opinion the most consistent we've been on anything.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have really enjoyed this. I know I've seen reviews really, how would I put this, shaming the plot, saying the plot is not intricate enough, it's not espionage enough. And I feel like you and I have been stark defenders of that. I don't know how our audience feels about it. And we're going to go ahead and rate this episode. So, Mark, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What is your rating for episode 5 of The Harvest in Secret Invasion?
I'd probably give it a 5.05 out of 6. Just, I don't know. I just didn't vibe with it. I don't know. It just like the synopsis that you read. It's like he really didn't gather his allies. Like when I think allies, I'm thinking Avengers. So I think it's a little misleading. That's kind of what this episode, it very much felt like, and it didn't leave us on a good, like a top-notch cliffhanger in my opinion. And that's what I kind of expected going into the last episode. It was just like, move the story forward to like, and where I can see where people who are distant is like, it's not espionage enough. It's like this episode really felt it really wasn't. It was kind of just laying out all the terms that we're going to hopefully resolve in the next episode, but nothing like spectacular. No big reveal, in my opinion. Besides the one thing that we find out that what Nick Fury did. I mean, I guess that's pretty big, but
we
like
can
not
talk
like
about it. I mean, we've already done the spoiler warning.
Yeah.
I'm going to echo that. I'm actually going to be a little more critical. I'm going to call this a 4.5 out of 6. And again, you and I have been very, very positive about this show. And I'm still positive about the show. I think a 4.5 is a fine rating. It's a good show. But I think my expectations of what this could do for the greater cinematic universe are not being fully met. There's a cameo in this that is just like, seriously, you think I guarantee a majority of people won't know that cameo that happens on the plane. I think if you pulled 10 people, 3 of them would know, maybe 4. I bet if you pulled the other Infinity Bros right afterwards, I bet 2 of them would know, maybe 2.
Call me out on that because it's like, isn't that the guy from Black Widow, right? Like that's
that is. So yeah, you and I knew. So maybe it is more. Maybe, but again,
but like right away, it's like like not a lot of people are going to know that. I mean, yeah, it was a movie, but it came out during COVID, so
yeah. And Black Widow's been referenced a couple times in this movie, which totally makes sense as those Venn diagram circles cross over a lot, right? Like, so I understand that and I'm okay with it. And I love those references. I think for me, my main issue and objective problem with this episode is Gravik or Rhodey, excuse me, lets him walk out. He has 10 guns facing him and he lets Fury walk out. The only person who could possibly stop this plan is allowed to walk out. And you can make the argument that Gravik needs to find the harvest. I don't buy it. Why not just capture him and torture him? Why not? I don't buy, and it's happened a couple times and I've let it go. But now I'm getting to a point where it's just like Fury's just protected by plot armor. He's just not gonna die. Like you and I talked about this. He's in the new Captain Marvel movie, The Marvels. He's gonna be in it. Like it's evident now. Like we thought it might be a Skrull, but it looks to me like he's gonna be in it because they just continue to let him walk. And Rhodey's a Skrull and Fury's talking about it and the other guy is just like whatever. Like there's no explanation for, is that guy pointing the gun at Fury a Skrull? Is he an agent that's torn? Now I'm starting to catch up with the story issues that everybody else is having.
Because I totally get what you're saying with they could just capture him and then basically take his mind and then find out where this is.
They could have captured, exactly. If you have the machine to take the memories, why don't you just do that and replace him? And then now you control the whole spy network. You control SWORD.
However, like I do get this is I think we as fans get lost in is I think we're able to armchair quarterback it. Like, oh, you should have done this, but like in the real scheme of things, where it's like maybe that's just not thought of. Maybe like Gravik didn't think we should do that, or it was never communicated down that way. Like Rhodey's like capture Nick Fury because he totally could have there. Or is the whole thought like, do they know that if you start shooting Nick Fury, he'll just kill himself? Like, is that a thing? So
yeah, like, and maybe that'll be explained, right? And I'm willing to. I'm not where I'm at with WandaVision, where I'm like, this is totally ruining everything that happened. I'm just more so making a point of like, man, I'm starting to catch up with the story tensions that other people have. I've let it go. I've been forgiving. And now I'm starting to be like, it's just not adding up for me. And I hope the final episode can deliver, but I feel like a lot of episodes aside from the Loki one haven't delivered up to this point. So I'm very concerned about this. Let's talk about the episode. After the failed attack on Ritson, Pagan criticizes Gravik for not killing Fury and accuses him of deceiving the other Skrulls. And they all attack him. This entire group of Skrulls attempt to swindle and kill and torture, essentially suffocate him. And Gravik kills them all in retaliation and approaches the rest of the Skrulls. What did you think of this fight? And there's a lot of fights in this episode, by the way, too. A lot of fights in this episode.
I was just kind of surprised. I would like to know what immediately happened after that. Like, are the rest of the Skrulls just like fearful of him now, or like the other Skrulls that attacked him must have known that he had these powers, unless they didn't. But it just shows that there's division. So like, is that what's going to crumble his, his people, is this division, and ultimately will his own people turn on him still? So
I liked this scene a lot. I thought this was a really good fight scene, and it was really cool to see Ben Kingsley Adir as a Skrull. I thought that was really cool. I thought he plays that role really well. And we did get. I made the criticism last week. I said, if that's all you're going to give me from the Groot CGI, that's frustrating. And then they did it again, and he killed somebody with it, which we only saw Groot pretty much do in the most recent. He's done it in every movie, but it wasn't as graphic as this movie. I thought. I thought Guardians 3 with that hallway fight scene was as graphic as this one, but
sure,
up to that
yeah.
point, we had never seen that from that power set before. Fury confronts Rhodes at the hospital. You and I talked about this earlier, but the latter reveals that he has released footage of Gravik killing Maria Hill to the public, placing Fury on a global watch list. I love this. I did like that switch from Rhodey. And I like the justification and issue that has long term. Like, the Avengers now are going to hate Nick Fury, right? Like, that's probably the logical answer to
Unless
this.
he can explain and they'll believe him. But yeah, you're right. It's like either there's going to be more division because of that, or will he be able to explain that, hey, these, like, that's where, like, that part made me think, like, I don't think this is going to end well.
Not a chance.
Because, like, they can't do another weekend at Ultron and just, like, make it just, like, a few days happen and blah, blah, blah. I feel like to make this more sinister and give, I think what the people want is, it ends with one of these Skrulls assuming an Avenger, and then just, like, takes that roll up. And then we're just led to believe that Avenger is a Skrull until it's revealed, like, down the road.
Biggest win next week is a post-credit scene of the Skrulls inhabiting a major character in this universe. Not the president. I think that's going to happen already. I'm talking like a major character we know. Somebody that comes in and they say, this is the direction we're going. I would love it. I think it helps all the stories they're trying to tell. I am 100% with you there, Mark.
Like, is this, like, could you imagine if they figure out, like, oh, Steve Rogers isn't in this timeline or is super old, I'm going to assume the identity of Captain America.
Or I think a logical one could be, I still go back to Sam Wilson. I think Sam Wilson, it would be a great twist to have this next movie have him be a Skrull, and maybe we find out at the end he does all the great stuff. He's heroic, but Sam Wilson doesn't have a strong power set, so that Skrull doesn't have to do that to be that individual. Rhodey was a layup as a character as well. You and I have talked about it in previous
That's what we want.
episodes too.
I want revealed is, when did he become a Skrull? That's what I hope they explain to us.
Yeah, I really thought we'd get that too. I'm pretty disappointed we haven't gotten that yet. And maybe that will happen in his TV show, right? Because that TV show that movie is coming up soon. Remember the War Machine movie that's coming up?
War Machine.
So
you
yeah,
mean
there's a
Armor
War Machine
Wars?
movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Armor
I
Wars.
thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be a show, or do they make it now a movie?
No, they made it a movie. They transitioned it to a movie. It was a show, but now it's a movie. So the point I make is that's a great time to probably explore that. I think I would, it would be fun to have another character. I don't really know out loud, as I think more outside of Sam, who I'd want, but you got to have somebody really big in order to make it work. I will say this too, Mark. We've talked about this on two things from previous episodes that I just want new audience members to hear. We really like the idea of a Black Panther like invasion in Wakanda. We've kind of said this a couple times.
What you said is, like, Shuri is the only one that's real, and the rest of her surrounding people are Skrulls.
I've been thinking about this too since we spoke about that last week. You know what would be a great movie? This is a totally off the wall tag team, but I think it would work. Star-Lord and Shuri. Like, Star-Lord somehow figures out ahead of time that Shuri's surrounded by them. He's looking at a news conference, and he catches something that only alien people would be able to catch. And so he makes the trek to Wakanda, explains, "Hey, I fought with you guys. I don't know if you remember me." And then starts to shoot all these people.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What the heck?" He's like, "I'm here to get you out." Like, I just think that would be such a fun duo to make a movie with. I really would love to see a Star-Lord and Shuri movie. I think that'll never happen. I'm totally like just doing the Infinity War Endgame thing where they mix and match, but I think that'd be a great combo. I really would love if Nick Fury teamed up with, realistically, I'd love it if he teamed up with Star-Lord, or Star-Lord had a personal movie surrounding the events of Secret Invasion. I think that would be a really, really cool storyline. And he feels like the perfect character to me to rally everybody because he knows specific things that about Skrulls that other people don't, and could have access to tech to help reconcile that.
Okay, now I gotta do the timeline again. This is all happening in 2025, right?
This is right after. Oh, what did we say in episode 1? We
Gotta go to
talked
the
about
MCU
this in
timeline.
episode 1.
Because like my thought would be is like when Nick Fury comes to Earth, is Star-Lord already on Earth, or when does he arrive?
That's a good question.
Because would that be on his radar that because if he's helping with not Star Labs, why am I blanking? Not Star Labs is DC. The ship that he's on, what's that called again?
The oh my goodness, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we'll just say yeah.
I'm pretty sure they would probably notice, hey, there's a ship coming into Earth's atmosphere, and
you're talking about Sword, yeah.
Sword.
I wonder if I think it was 2023. This is right after all that stuff happened because he talks about this episode, the Battle of Earth, and I would personally guess that Nick Fury knows. I'll say Nick Fury knows. I'll say I believe Nick Fury knows. Okay, let's get back. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is you and I have said this too, but there's no way they can reconcile all this in one episode. Like this is a permanent problem now. And the news press announcement showed Skrulls, Mark. So now Skrulls are known globally.
Guardians of the Galaxy happens before Secret Invasion.
I think I've thought this the whole time. I think Chris Pratt is absolutely a piece of this puzzle. I really do, because yeah, I think Star-Lord will be a great asset to Earth on this story.
I hope so.
I think it'd be great, and I'm excited to see what the consequences are. This show feels like a show that's going to have massive consequences to the greater scale. The mutiny, we talked about that. Gravik kills them all, including Beto, who we met in the first episode. Excuse me.
Thinking about that, I wonder if we'll find out if some of the people involved in the group that Falcon and Winter Soldier were fighting in their show were also Skrulls too.
Oh,
because like that will be interesting if like in this next episode, will they show us that like, hey, some of these Skrull in the new Phase 5 have been like involved in some of the events,
and can Rhodey leverage that to build a case for trust when he really shouldn't be trusted? I don't know. Good question. Fury meets up with Gaia, who reveals that Gravik is looking for something called the Harvest, and we'll talk about what that is later. We'll come back to that. Falsworth tracks down Dr. Rosa Dalton. Mark, the best part of this show, in my opinion, has been this character. I love her.
She's been great.
Pumped about her.
Scenes. Yeah.
She is so great. She has been a breath of fresh air.
Menacing too, where it's like she's a wild card. You don't know what she might like. I thought some of those later scenes in this episode, I'm thinking like, is she going to turn on Nick Fury? Like that made me think that. So
no, I think she is absolutely trustworthy, and maybe she's the big character that needs to be a Skrull in the big case of things to really mess me up. It will mess me up if next episode she's a Skrull, for clarity.
And that's how she's been able to hunt him down so easily, because she
I agree,
has a tell or something like you said about Star-Lord. Like there's something that aliens do that only people who have been around him could figure that out.
Sure, I totally echo that. So a couple things. First off, she goes after her boss, who is secretly a Skrull. This is Tony Curran's second appearance, actually, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Mark. He played a very small role as Bor, Odin's dad, in Thor: The Dark World. So, fun fact about that. She shoots him. It's revealed he's a Skrull, which is great. And I love that scene. I just love her.
I just love how they're gonna like shoot her or detain her, and she's like, "Nah, dude, this is an alien. So like, you decide who you're trusting."
Yeah, she's like, and I loved the line she made about there are no rules about shooting Skrulls.
Yeah,
I loved that. I was like,
they're fair game on this world.
That is some high level political espionage that I love. I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll skip ahead to this because she does track down Dr. Dalton. Dr. Dalton, who's been in this, is actually a nod to an obscure comics character who appeared in a single X-Men issue, Professor Dalton, who helped build a facility called the World, which could be used to create and evolve super-powered folks. So a nice little Easter egg there. Great use of a small-time character. I really like that connection. I think it's good. And another X-Men connection to this universe, which again is interesting. Rhodes shows Ritson pictures of new Skrullos located in Russia. This is part of the plan that him and Gravik have built. And it implicates that Russia is supporting the Skrull invasion, and he advises a strike on the compound. I really liked this, but I gotta tell you, Mark, like to see this kind of end up being the plan is kind of like, really, it's all just gonna end up on new Skrullos. Come on, guys, like, come on. I just it's just too cookie cutter for me. I can't. I just find this sequence to be, we're gonna have a big fight. Somebody important will die on their side. Gaia will save Nick Fury at the end of all this. Probably at the last second, there will be a gun pointed at his head, or she'll be revealed to be a Super Skrull, and her and Gravik will fight, and she'll win. I really hope that's not how episode 6 turns out, but it appears that's the direction we're going.
You're going to be mad if a bunch of comic book characters,
oh my gosh,
their series ends like a comic book would.
No, good question. That's a good for clarity.
I'm being sarcastic, so like that's something like it's gonna follow. But I do agree with you. Like it is like, and maybe we're just, what's the term? We're too, maybe not the term, but like this is how I'd phrase it. Are we just like too smart for this? Like we just can't just like suspend our disbelief and just enjoy it? Like, are we getting too analytical with it?
No,
or do we just kind of expect more when it's just like, you guys have this time to put such a better story to it, but then you kind of get lazy in parts.
2 rebuttals to that. One, $212 million. That's how much the budget is in this. So you can give me a better story than that for 212.
All that AR, how do they not save money? They used AI.
I know. I'm brilliant. I just personally think that for this story, it's going to have ripple effects down the line. You can be you can keep this as a bottle episode. I've always fought for that. You and I never fought for this to be like this huge global thing. Like this can't be every person on the planet's involved. I've always subscribed to that. Make it a bottle episode. It's okay. Like let it be. So the amount of characters we have doing this, because a lot of people are making that complaint on the internet. I disagree with that. Keep it small. I'm okay with it. My big problem.
And what they did in the story, they've done a pretty good job at like kind of giving you hints and reasons why they're not involved in like on both sides of the game.
It's just the fact that Nick Fury just gets let off too easy this episode. He gets let off way too easy, and I'm just like,
and I think that's why it lowered our scores.
It's frustrating. It's just very frustrating for me. And so the Dr. Dalton, she burns the place down. Dr. Dalton and the other gentleman, Tony Curran, it revealed the machine that they're using, and yada 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 that. Rhodes shows pictures of, we talked about that. Gravik calls Nick Fury and offers to call off the strike if he brings the harvest in person. And this is where Nick Fury gets on the plane. We talked about this at the beginning of the episode, but Rick Mason is on the plane. He's the guy who provided the same services for Natasha Romanoff in the Black Widow film. This was a waste of time, guys. This was a bad cameo. This wasn't good. And the way they shot it, Mark, was like they zoom in on him and they're like, oh, who's it? And I could just tell him like somebody we know is coming. And this is the guy. And Black Widow was such a meh movie. And I don't know. I don't know who else I want there. I don't have an answer for who I would like there. I don't know, Mark. This is another reason my rating dropped. This cameo was not there. The guy, his I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's so meh.
Like the only other person that I've thought about this. Like I think all your heroes that are in phase 5, you really couldn't have used because it wouldn't have made sense. And what I'm going to say probably wouldn't make sense either. But I think might be a better cameo given the situation and the relationship. Agent Coulson is the one that's helping him out here.
I have no idea. I'm with you in 100%. What, like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or better yet, Clint Barton.
See, that's one I thought too. He was my like last outlier, but he just doesn't make sense of what like he needs help with. That's what.
Yeah, and I know Clint Barton's had his own little kerfuffle, but I mean, what about Yelena?
Yeah, her too.
I'm just thinking there are other people that make that scene go, whoa, that's pretty crazy. No, I it's so meh. It's just a meh cameo. It doesn't tickle my fancy. I think the majority of people will see this and not understand it. You made the question earlier of like, are we just too analytical and detailed? Marvel made this problem. They've made mediocre TV shows, and they've poured millions and millions of dollars into it. And this is what Disney Plus has done. They've poured billions of dollars into this for irrelevant stuff. They went with the quantity approach that Netflix did, and Netflix is now dying financially, and Disney Plus is also dying financially. So I think that's a consequence to this. And this is just a pretty this is a candidate for one of the worst cameos I've ever seen, Mark. I go that far. It holds no bearing to me. It doesn't change this episode at all for good.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like you could have just had some regular Joe that Nick Fury knew that lived like that was in the area. It's like
he's got random guys driving him around a car. Why did it need to?
Well,
be
it just makes you think like, what did we say $212 million to make this whole show? Like, where did that get spent? Was Sam Jackson's salary like that high that it ate a whole chunk of that? Because it's like, I feel like you could have got, or who knows what the overall story is. Like, will this guy become more important down the road? But it's just like,
sure,
if it was supposed to be just a one-off thing, then yeah, get someone that can be a one-off thing. Just have it be Agent Coulson. Call it a day.
Gaia and Priscilla hold a funeral for Talos. This was a really great scene. Priscilla's been a great addition to this universe already for me. I really like her presence. I think she's great. I love how she holds some history to it. They say a prayer in this. And so I do want to highlight the prayer and kind of this. What makes the comic book so good for Secret Invasion is that they do it as a religious, radical entity. And if they are to go that same approach for this universe, I really hope they approach it that way. I hope they approach it with the same "He loves you." I want everybody to say "He loves you" as if they're worshiping their own personal God. And I thought this prayer was a tease to that, or maybe at the bare minimum, a reference, an Easter egg. I just got excited seeing that.
I know the MCU with this Phase 5 is really set up is, basically every religion is real, or like in the sense where like they have their own God. So like that would make sense that like, yeah, Skrulls probably have their own entity that they worship, just like, how Black Panther can go to their realm.
That's a really good point.
Can go to their realm. Thor goes to their realm. So basically and if you go back to but you go back to Thor: Love and Thunder, where originally Russell Crowe was supposed to play Satan instead of Zeus. That's who originally was supposed to. Yeah, so that just sets up like, hey, there's Jesus God, that would have been technically out there. So, but I don't know why they shied away from that. That would have been interesting.
The American God show on HBO does that too, where they have like 50 different Jesuses in it. Very similar. Yeah. I
do appreciate that they were like, hey, they're faith-based group of people. So
yeah, I appreciate that too. And I think it's a good, like, if Salim is going for the immigration conversation that I think this show is trying to really point to, I think religion's a huge part of immigration for some people. It is going somewhere where they have the freedom to practice their religion. And I think that's something that they could touch on with this. And I just would love to see, here's kind of where they could really turn this all around, Mark. And it really centers around Gaia. Where's Gaia going to go? And that's the question I'm wondering in episode 6. Will Gaia look at all of this and her and Priscilla fight that group? Huge fight, great fight. We loved that too. Or is Gaia going to, it's Anakin Skywalker. Is she going to turn evil because of what happened with her dad? And because of like Nick Fury has lied, and we find out later this episode that Nick Fury collected the harvest. He collected all these DNA samples from all these superheroes, including Carol Danvers. He betrayed Carol Danvers. So Carol Danvers is not going to be happy about this when she finds this out. And is Gaia going to see this and turn to that version of that character in Secret Invasion, the one that takes the spot of Spider-Woman? And is she going to be the radical Skrull that leads a true, real invasion of what it should look like? Like, is she going to look at all of this and say, you know what? Gravik had it all wrong. We need to all be worshiping and honoring our tradition, and this is how we're going to do it? Or is she going to become good and replace Talos? That's what's most exciting about episode 6 for me, is that character arc. Where will she go? And I think Emilia Clarke can do either route if they want.
In the comic books, is at the time where the Skrull takes over Spider-Woman, is Spider-Woman like a prominent character amongst the Avengers?
She was a very prominent character in the Bendis run.
Gotcha. So like my thought
and they also replaced Jarvis.
So I think in here she wouldn't replace
And
Spider-Woman,
Hank Pym.
but like, who do you think she could assume identity? If like that was the case, who do you think she would assume identity of? Like, does she take over Captain Marvel? Does she take over as Captain America? Like someone that has some authority and following, I would assume would be the if that's the route they go. Like, who does she take over? Because it would be someone established, I would imagine. Or like you said, maybe she takes over Sam Wilson.
I think She-Hulk is a really good example. If they could figure out a way to do the Super Skrull thing, that's a really tough one to do, obviously, and that's the science has to really work out.
She
But
hasn't really been established as a hero.
no, but she's really, really tight with Bruce, and that relationship, to sever that relationship would be a unique thing and a great response to the criticisms of that show.
Oh, that show was great though.
We liked it, but a lot of people didn't. They feel like she's a Mary Sue, just like in Star Wars with Daisy Ridley's character of Rey. I I just I think I would say Yelena. I would say maybe Kate Bishop as the Young Avengers grow would be a good example. I think there's a lot more female characters coming to the front. I think Carol Danvers is a great example, Mark. I think that probably is the number one most, like, if they could find a way to replicate her powers, great to betray the team.
And then with saying all that though, you don't hire someone like Emilia Clarke to not have her be her and use her likeness.
Look,
to be
Mark,
something.
I'm holding my hand up on this. I still think Emilia Clarke is playing a prominent character that we don't know. I think she is impersonating a character that we do not know about yet. Maybe it will be revealed the identity of that character that died. I think that could be a possibility. Similar to Priscilla, because Priscilla is inhabiting a doctor that was looking at superpowered beings and potentially mutants. So I just think Gaia could be that person too.
Have they cast a Fantastic Four yet? Could she be Sue Storm?
Maybe. I don't think they've done that yet, and that would be really cool to me. I don't, with all due respect to Marvel, I don't think they're that far thinking, Mark. I think those days are gone. I don't think they have the capacity to do it anymore. I think they've stretched themselves too thin to be that forward thinking.
They need us. Could you imagine?
No, Mark, I can't fathom
submitted this. And like we were like convinced Daddy Feige to take us on as their head writers. And it's just you and I leading the MCU.
That'd be you, Mark. I'd put you in.
We'd be like lost. We'd like be kids in a giant toy chest. Like, what do we do with all this, Daddy?
I'll be the networker. I'll go to the parties. I'll convince the actor to come for the meeting. You just say which actor you want. We'll go get him. That's how we'll do that.
I want Ryan Reynolds to play everyone. And then Danny DeVito plays the only other character.
Danny DeVito will play Wolverine, and Ryan Reynolds will play everyone else.
No, Muppets. Everyone will be Muppets besides Ryan Reynolds and Danny DeVito.
So Fury goes with Fallsworth to Finland. His grave is revealed. We also he uses the Widow's Veil, which that's brought back from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I thought was really cool.
And he makes reference that it sounds like he has multiple grave sites around the world.
Also, this item was used on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of more of a S.H.I.E.L.D. thing than a Widow thing is maybe what I would say. But I think this episode is just apparently a Black Widow love story. So whatever. And that's why it probably is also not getting a high rating from me. And then we get his grave. It's the same as his grave in Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Oh my gosh, Max, we got to back up. I got to go into the weeds. So they make the comment, or Nick Fury makes a comment about like, he has the grave site, so then he can disappear.
Mm-hmm.
We see a grave site with Black Widow in the end of Black Widow. Could that set up that our Black Widow came back after Steve Rogers brought back the Soul Stone? And she
that's a good question. That's a good way for her to come back. That's a good theory of how to get her back.
Because that's a theory that if he goes back and drops off that Soul Stone at the right moment, or is that what we're supposed to get with Guardians of the Galaxy? Is no, because they makes it sound like Gamora that came from the future. But anyways, he comes back and he would have dropped it off when Hawkeye and them went, because that's where he had the timestamp. So you would assume that
the three major deaths that are permanent are, the three major deaths: Gamora, old Gamora, not new Gamora, Black Widow, and Uncle Ben. Those are the three permanent deaths. They're not.
I don't know back. If Steve Rogers went back to Red Skull and dropped off that soul stone, I would assume a soul for a soul, drops the soul stone back off, gets Black Widow back.
No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying
You're
it.
not gonna buy that,
I'm not buying that.
but you'll buy that Sam Wilson is a Skrull.
I will buy Sam Wilson could be a Skrull. Yeah.
All right, this is my
Because I have evidence. The evidence is Rhodey yells, "Sam, where you at?" And you and I both think like he could, if Rhodey is played by a female Skrull, Sam could be played by a male Skrull. Boom. Right? There you go. You got your relationship. You got your black.
We're setting it up for our disappointment for next.
You got your Black Mirror MCU episode. That's what you got. Very similar to actually the one that he's in too. So let's talk about the Battle of Earth and like the Harvest. What did you think of the reveal that that's the reason why he came back? Of the Harvest has all the Avengers DNA in it, especially Carol Danvers. Did you feel like that was a good closing of why he came back? Do you feel like that's a good justified answer of why he came back?
And that's saying like he came back when he heard about the issues going on, not like came back.
Yes,
because yeah, it's like, well, what was his plan with it? Because not only did they collect samples, they apparently put it all into one vial of all these samples to do what with? What was Nick Fury's intentions?
I think it's a deterrent. I think he really was looking at this like, look, it's the same answer as every time something happens, Nick Fury always has to have a deterrent. So in Avengers, you get the scene where he's like, look, they had Thor, so we've got to use phase 2. We've got to use the Tesseract. You've got Age of Ultron, so you've got to like, you constantly are building to the next thing. And the Avengers were assembled to build that. They worked, they saved the day. But now the main two players are gone.
Like you're saying, like one or two things. Either he's created the Harvest to help build something bigger, or be able to fight off if the heroes turned against us.
Both, and I think it's that. I think it's the threats will be bigger now that we've gone against Thanos, who's already really big, and we may need to put all this in one person if half the planet was gone ever again.
Sure. But then it seemed interesting that he felt guilty when he said even Carol Danvers. Like
he should feel guilty about Carol Danvers. She's like his best friend.
Yes, he should. And that makes me think like what, like I would like to know more of like why he did it.
Mark, this is such a great thing for the character of Carol Danvers. I got to tell you, I will say this. I 6 out of 6 this because everyone was pooping on her, including you, about that movie. And I think this is a great tension that could be talked about in the Marvels. I really think this could be a great, like, you did what?
Yeah.
And just rest it. I would love it if in the Marvels, this is an immediate consequence that's talked about. I think Carol Danvers finding that out will be a very, very, very bad thing for everybody involved. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy that kind of tension because how do you break down a character like Carol Danvers? You can't really take away her powers. You got to break away her severed trust for Nick Fury. I think it'd be that'll be a great tool down the line for a story.
So hear me out. So if this is supposed to happen before the Marvels, would one think that maybe, like, I know there's already a villain that they have for it, but do you think Nick Fury gets them together because they're like, oh, Graphic got the Harvest and now he's off world, so you need to go find him? Oh, and she could be like, well, why should I go find him? It's like, well, the Harvest like involves your DNA, so like, oops, sorry.
The Harvest strikes me as something as like that will come up later down the line, that maybe it'll get stolen by Gaia. Maybe it falls in the ground, Gaia takes it, and then she leaves, and we're left to wonder what her choice will be down the line.
Or High Evolutionary gets it somehow.
High Evolutionary could get a hold of it.
And kill that character. Robbie better be happy.
There's a lot of different people that could use that. I mean, there's other Skrulls that could use it. I don't think Gravik's gonna. I thought Gravik might make it out after this, but it's evident they're making his death a very, very nice. It's going to be a nice death. People are going to be really excited about it.
I think you're onto something with the Gaia thing. Like, does she turn bad because she's like, well, yeah, I'm going to kill Gravik because he killed my dad, but I'm going to do something in my image. Do something that's both what my dad should have done and what Gravik couldn't do.
Yep, the combination of Gravik and Ben. She's going to take over the world. Or Ben is the actor's name. Did Talos. I think she will. I think that she will be the leader of Secret Invasion. I feel pretty good actually about saying that after this. And I kind of felt when I saw the casting initially, I was like, that's a perfect character to do that. So I would love it though if like it was revealed she's playing that character by chance or whatever. Like, and Nick Fury's off planet and he's not giving intel to anybody, and she becomes a trusted advocate with the Avengers. So I'm looking forward to episode 6. I thought this ended really strongly. Oh, last question: the stuff that Fury was messing with at the tombstones. Do you think was that Wakandan tech or was that just regular Skrull tech? It looked like Black Panther tech.
My first thought was a White Wolf when I saw the logo.
Yeah,
so I'm like, that's what made me think, like, is this Wakanda tech?
Yeah,
I think it'd be. I would lean
probably
towards
Skrull tech.
But I would lean more towards Wakanda tech. But maybe Wakanda tech that's right now is Skrull tech technically. So
yeah, but that's the best theory. I would love it. Secret Invasion with everybody having a Skrull would just be crazy.
I'm still disappointed that we haven't gotten an end credit scene. I was really thinking this would be the episode we would get one. Just like another another tease for the next episode.
I think next week maybe. I think next week it's gonna be great. I mean, do.
They conditioned us to watch through the credits for an end credit scene, and they haven't given us one.
I'm tapering my expectations for next week. I'm done building these things up so much. I'm just
You're not done. So. You're not done. You say that after every series.
I'm not done with Marvel. I don't think I'll ever be done with Marvel thanks to Endgame. But I'm going to be done with the WandaVision thing. I just can't. I gotta let it go. I just gotta go in and let it be what it is.
Those are crazy times, Max. We had been living in our homes for a year without being able to go outside.
We had whiteboards and we were just taking newspaper clippings.
We were all smoking cigarettes because we're so stressed out from what's going on in WandaVision.
I never ever smoked cigarettes except for when I watched WandaVision.
Except for those 9 weeks.
It's the only time I smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can check out this episode right now on Disney Plus. If you've listened to this point and haven't watched it, you're nuts. You're crazy. Don't do that. Mark, thank you for coming on. Thanks for being part of this, and you're awesome.
Thanks, man. You're awesome too, bro. Love you.
Okay, bro. Love you, man.
Love you, guys.
And as always, we love you guys 3000. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Click the link in our show notes if you want to get involved in the Infinity Bros universe. Join our Discord. Check us out on Twitch or TikTok. As always, love you guys 3000. We'll see you soon. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.